I learned 7 principles of success that took me from dead broke at 24 to being a multimillionaire by 28 in just 4 years. I mean, going from zero to multimillionaire in 48 months, it sounds like absolute magic, doesn't it? Well, as our source material reveals today, it isn't magic at all. It's just math. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to break down the exact step-by-step numbers that make this kind of wealth creation not just possible, but highly systematic. We're stripping away all the generic, fluffy business advice today and focusing purely on the hard metrics.
Look, I get it. Financial math is a topic that absolutely terrifies a lot of people. But today, we're going to turn it into a totally predictable engine. In this explainer, we're going to use the really powerful metaphor of a leaky bucket to completely demystify 7 formulas that usually scare people off. If you've ever felt like you're just kind of flying blind in your business, or you're making money but you feel like you should be keeping a whole lot more of it, uncovering these numbers is going to be an absolute game changer for you.
So here's our game plan. We're going to define the blueprint and the margins, then we'll plug the leaky bucket of customer retention, figure out the true cost of growth, fix that sales funnel, and finally calculate your financial runway.
All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the blueprint, where we define your ultimate goal.
We have to kick things off with principle number 1, which is knowing exactly what you're actually building. The whole idea here is that you need to create a business that generates profits without you having to be there every single waking second. Really, the ultimate litmus test of a great business is whether or not you could sell it without you attached to it. To figure out if you're building a highly saleable asset, you have to track your enterprise value, or EV. The math here is pretty straightforward. You take your yearly profits and multiply them by an industry multiple. That multiple is basically what buyers will pay based on how reliable your profit is. The less risk your business has, the higher the multiple buyers will pay for your durable revenue. Let's put some real numbers to this so it clicks. Say you run an agency, right? And your agency pulls in $500,000 in pure profit each year. If the industry average multiple for an agency like yours is 3x, your enterprise value isn't just $500,000. It's a massive $1.5 million. Knowing this number completely shifts your mindset. You stop just trying to make a quick buck and start looking for ways to invest profits back into the business to literally skyrocket that enterprise value. But hey, what separates a 2x business from a 10x business isn't just what you make, it's what you actually keep at the end of the day. And that brings us to gross margin. Let's say your monthly revenue is $50,000 and the direct cost to actually deliver your product or service is $10,000. That leaves you with a gross profit of $40,000. When you divide that $40K by your $50K in revenue, boom, you've got an 80% gross margin.
And this brilliantly illustrates principle 2. Vanity revenue means absolutely nothing. Seriously, you could hit $10 million in revenue and still wake up flat broke if your margins are razor thin. The rule from our source is crystal clear here. Never let your gross margin drop below 70%. Now, obviously, unless you run something with inherently crazy high costs, like a restaurant. But for most of us, aiming to keep those margins above 70% is what ensures true profitability and directly drives up that enterprise value we just talked about.
Moving right along to section 2, plugging the leaky bucket by mastering retention. So having fat margins is fantastic, but they aren't going to save you if you can't keep your customers around. Before you even think about pouring more water into your business by throwing thousands of dollars at ads, you have to plug the giant holes in the bucket first. This means tracking principle 3, your churn rate. Why is this so critical? Because guys, it is literally 7 to 8 times cheaper to sell to an existing client than it is to go out and hunt down a brand new one. You calculate your churn by taking the number of clients you lost this month and dividing it by the total number of clients you started the month with. To put that in perspective, if you had 100 clients on day 1 of the month and you lost 3 of them by the end, your churn rate is 3%. And according to the source material, a 3% monthly churn is the gold standard target most businesses should be rigorously aiming for.
Which naturally leads us to principle 4, lifetime value, or LTV. This formula is wild because it reveals exactly what those retained clients are actually worth to you over the long haul. You just take your average revenue per client per month and divide it by your monthly churn percentage. Let's do the math together. It's pretty eye-opening. If a customer pays you $100 a month and you divide that by a 2% churn rate, so 0.02, their lifetime value is $5,000. What this means is, if you can figure out how to just cut your churn rate in half, you literally double the value of every single customer in your business. And you do it with 0 extra effort on the acquisition side.
All right, leaks are plugged. Let's hit section 3, the true cost of growth, or pricing the yes.
So once your churn is low, we can finally start pouring water in. But you've got to know exactly what a single yes from a brand new client actually costs you. Because before you get paid, a client costs you money. This is Principle 5, calculating your customer acquisition cost, or CAC. You basically have to tally up everything. We're talking your ads, sales commissions, whatever marketing software you're using. So if you spent $10,000 in a month to acquire customers and you walked away with 20 new paying clients, each one of those clients cost you $500 to acquire.
But honestly, just knowing the CAC isn't enough. You also have to track the CAC payback period. Check this out. If you spend $100 to get a client who immediately pays you $100 a month, you have a 30-day payback period. That gives you virtually unlimited growth potential. But if you spend $500 to get that customer, and it takes you 6 months of their monthly payments to just earn that initial $500 back, well, the faster you grow, the faster cash violently flies out of your business to finance that growth. It's a trap so many founders fall into.
Which brings us to Section 4, fixing the sales funnel by tracking the survivors. Let's see how all of this builds on itself. You're spending money to get people to your website. They're raising their hands to give you money, but somehow they're just dropping off. Principle 6 says you need to tighten those funnels by tracking your conversion rate at every single stage. Think of your funnel like a grueling obstacle course, and at each hurdle, you're counting the survivors. By mapping this out, say starting with 100 leads, dropping to 40 who are qualified, to 10 who booked a call, to 8 who actually showed up, down to just 5 who closed, you reveal a 5% overall conversion rate from lead to paying customer. Breaking the funnel down into these tiny micro stages is incredibly empowering. Why? Because it lets you clearly diagnose exactly which step is broken. You might not have a marketing problem at all. You might literally just have a show-up problem. When you know the exact metric that's failing, you can aggressively focus your time and energy on fixing that one specific thing, fast. Finally, we're at Section 5, knowing your financial runway, which is the ultimate reality check. We've reached Principle 7, the taken clock of your survival. The most experienced founders out there know precisely how long they can go before they completely run out of time and energy. To figure this out, you first have to calculate your burn rates. You take the cash going out of your business, which is a negative number, and add the cash coming in from sales. So for example, if you're spending 40 grand a month just to keep the lights on, but you only bring in 20 grand, your monthly burn rate is negative $20,000. Every single month, you are bleeding 20K. Knowing your burn allows you to calculate your runway. And this answers the single most critical question an entrepreneur can face. How many months can you continue operating like this before the lights shut off for good? You just take your total cash currently sitting in the bank and divide it by that monthly burn rate.
So if you've scraped together $100,000 in the bank and you've got that $20,000 monthly burn we talked about, you have exactly 5 months until you are what the industry delightfully calls default dead. 5 months until zero. And guys, this is exactly why doing a daily cash report, knowing every single day what came in and what went out, is absolutely essential to avoid fatal surprises. We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, all the way from enterprise value to being default dead. The ultimate takeaway from our source material is that the real winners in business, they aren't necessarily absolute geniuses with off-the-charts IQs. They're simply the people who know their numbers cold, they know exactly what to measure, and they know how to fix them. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to act on right now. Look at the metrics we covered today. Which of these 7 numbers do you desperately need to calculate right now for your own wealth engine? Seriously, go grab a calculator, dive into your data, and start plugging those leaks. Until next time, keep building.